So I just saw Tenet again. And if you want to see my non-spoiler talk, watch my first video. But this will be a spoiler discussion on Tenet after seeing it for a second time now. I am. You've got to watch it many times so you get the full understanding of Christopher Nolan's films. Obviously, I think that's a bit of a cliche. I think it's so stupid. Like, Nolan does have very smart films, but it's not like what everyone says. It's not like they act like he's the super indie director that is so insane and only you need a master's degree in physics to understand this. But it's there. After two watches, you can really get everything he's looking for, I think. Like, I've thought about the movie a lot. I've been discussing with my flatmate about exactly how the time travel in this movie works. And I think I've got it down pat, Like, it's pretty straightforward, more or less, I think. I think the issue with understanding is trying to figure it out linearly, Like, I think you really need to get your thoughts in exactly how it works with people traveling backwards. Okay, anyway, sorry. So I'll explain the plot. So you got your protagonist guy. He's learning about this time travel shenanigans going on. They give you a bit of a misdirection at the beginning of the film with the bullets. So they explain that bullets are going back in time, and you can like catch a bullet instead of shooting the bullet. But which it's a misdirection that makes no sense, right? So, like, obviously, they didn't actually know, the characters at the time didn't know the full extent of the villain's plans and why they're going backwards and things like that. But, initially, it's just dumb. Like, what is so good about a reverse bullet? It's shit. Like, and also, like, when you see people later, so you see, like, a reverse person fighting a normal way person, and they're not any better, because the reverse person is seeing the normal way person as if they're reversed. So like it's not like useful for fighting. It's just kind of shit, like I don't know. And yeah, the reverse bullet, like it wouldn't have, like if that was all it was, if it was just bullets being reversed, it would not be useful. It would be stupid. But lucky it's not that, right? So it actually is just people going back in time and, getting information from back in time and telling it to their future selves, and they can also, they also have the benefit of being able to shoot people when they're not looking and all that stuff, so it is a benefit, right? And so that's what he finds out, that the villains are doing this, and he goes and tries to stop it, or, falling in love with this love interest, and yada yada yada. Not that important. Nolan's not that good at writing women, that's a big critique of his stuff, I think. You can see that in Memento, you can see it in The Prestige. Like, he's never been that great. Like, if you look at the Dark Knight movies, fucking hell, like, terrible. Like even, just, they're not that good. So I think that's the problem that he's always had. And this movie's no different. But what's good is his, the bromance between the protagonist and Robert Pattinson's character. I think they're very fun, very enjoyable, some good banter between each other. It's good fun. I really enjoyed that scene of them bungee jumping inside of a building. It kind of follows the motif of reverse time. Because like bungee jumping is meant to go out of something, but they use it to go into something. I think it's quite clever, right? If you reverse that clip of them bungee jumping into it, it would show them bungee jumping out, right? Like similar to reversing the camera of shooting a bullet. It's very interesting. I think it's a very interesting concept of that. So I thought that was very cool, and I thought that scene of them getting into that building was kind of a reference to The Dark Knight. So in The Dark Knight, he had a whole thing of getting into the building, and then he used like an airplane to take him out of it. I thought that was very interesting. Like maybe it's a loose reference, like maybe it wasn't even intended, but I think it's there, and I think it's interesting, And what you find interesting is interesting, getting things out of movies is good, yeah. Another great scene is that chase scene with they were stealing what they thought was nuclear information, but it was the what's the term I'm trying to think of? The formula which was kind of goofy. I don't know. I'll talk about that in a bit. But that scene was very cool, very thrilling. You know, with the fire engine being used to get on top of the courier truck, and then all the other trucks squishing them together. Wow. It was very cool. I enjoyed that, and then had a cool chase scene afterwards. And then you saw that chase scene again in reverse, which is very cool. So, yeah, a lot of the movie you see at two different times, because our main characters go back in time about halfway through the film and go through the events of other parts in the movie. And that is really interesting. It is really fun. I wish they went all the way to the beginning of the film. They had this scene at the opera house. I wish they went all the way there for like the end of the film, but they never ended up doing that, which kind of sucks. I think that would have been a good way to not even end the film, but just be there. You know, I don't know. It's kind of like Harry Potter 3. Like, I'm not that big fan of Harry Potter, but it's kind of like that, because they use that they go back in time, like timepiece thing, and they go back a few hours and redo the events of like halfway through the movie, and it's very interesting. I think it's an interesting concept, and it's fun to see like reuse of like similar times but from different perspectives and things like that. Okay, so let's talk about the formula. So like the whole plot of the film is there's people in the future who's created a formula to reverse all of time instead of just like one person or one object or whatever. And they made a formula into physical objects, and the villain's plan was to get all the formula together and then leave it in one place for future people to find and then use. The whole plot was the heroes would try to stop them getting blowing up a nuclear bomb above the formula so it'll be buried for future. Why couldn't I don't understand why the heroes couldn't just go dig it up later. Like, just put on some fucking nuclear fucking suits, put on some fucking cringe suits, and just go and dig it up. I don't see why they can't do that before the X year where the villains would get it in the future. I don't see it. And also, like, he wanted, the villain wanted to die at the same time that the universe would like explode, right? But then his watch would tell the future people, would send information to the future people on like what time of day he died, so then they could program the end of the world to be that time. But then like they act like he can't die until they get the formula away, but it doesn't matter if he sends the information to the future people, because he has they would have taken the formula, the future people would have got the information saying, yo, do this, stop the world at this time, but they don't have the formula, so it doesn't matter. It's stupid. It's ludicrous. It's kind of goofy. Yeah, so that bit I think is kind of dumb. I wish, so right at the end of the film we see the protagonist go back in time like a few weeks to go to a certain time where it would be buried, and so does the villain. But we only see the future version of the villain, like chilling on a boat, just hanging out with his wife and talking about how he wants to die. But I wish we also had the past version, so I wish we had two versions of Andre, the villain. I think that would have been fun, right? I think it's similar to critiques I have of Avengers Endgame, where I think that Avengers Endgame should have had had future and past Thanos in it, but it only had like a past version of Thanos that had no connection to anyone. I just think there should have been two. And I think in a time travel movie, like you can do that, and it's a fun thing that you can do that they didn't take advantage of. I think they kind of squandered that opportunity. But yeah, so I really loved the scene where we first see how the time machine works, where Andre the villain is standing there gonna shoot his wife with the protagonist on the other side of the glass, you know, being all freaked out. I think it was genius, because we saw him do that, get the information, go into the time machine, and do the thing all over again, but in reverse, because he knew it would have to be in reverse. And it was genius. I think it was very smart, and I loved it. Yeah, it was great. These time machines do say there's no free will, and it does suck. I like time travel where there is free will. I guess that doesn't really exist unless you have multiple universes. You know, like say in Dragon Ball Z. In Dragon Ball Z, they have the time travel, and they just create parallel universes. You know, like split off in the timelines. So that you're actually able to go change the past. In this world, you're not actually able to change the past. Your existence in the past, like going back in time, has always happened no matter what. So you have no actual chance to change anything, you know? Like what happens happens. And it's kind of dumb. I think, like, obviously this wouldn't make sense, but if I was in the universe where this was happening, I would just do something intentionally to fuck it up, because I think that would be so interesting, you know? Like, if I know that I'm gonna do something in the past or whatever when I time travel, I should just kill myself, right? Because then that would never happen. But then, of course, I could never do that because I never did do that, because there's no free will, right? I think it does bring up a lot of interesting things about what free will is and what a choice is and all these things. And I think in a world where time travel like that is acceptable, it is hard to talk about people making choices for themselves and actually doing anything, right? Like, are you able to get angry at someone for killing your loved one when they were always going to do that, and they could never choose to do that or not, you know? Are we able to even, like, punish people for making decisions that they didn't even make? Like, it was just a cosmic thing that was always going to happen. It seems ridiculous to punish people for something like that, right? Like, it's something that Sam Harris talks about, like, like a cool kids philosopher guy. You know, he's very intelligent. He writes very good books, but like, he talks about if we don't have free will, if everything is just a chemical reaction in your brain. He's not even talking about time travel, right? But it kind of makes it's very similar with time travel and then just not making decisions because it's just a chemical reaction, or, you know, it's just your body doing effects based on your environment and things like that. How can you blame someone for their actions? How can they have agency when they are not actually doing the action? You know, when they would always have done the action no matter what they do. They cannot choose that. They're stuck in that time. And it is very interesting. It brings up interesting ideas. What else have I written down? Okay, so because I do think the plot is a little weak. I think that this is ultimately a spy film, right? Like going through time, trying to figure out like a James Bond type film. But I feel like it could have been tighter. You know, I think it was very over-explanatory. It was really bogged down by telling us how the world worked. And it was bogged down with telling us how the world worked to misdirect us, to then tell us how the world worked in a different way. Like, because like, they had huge expositions with that chick showing how the bullet is fired in the reverse way, to then but that was all a misdirection to tell us like how and that doesn't work that way. And I think it's annoying. It's annoying that they would so overly explain something that is wrong. It is really annoying. And yeah, I think the problem is that Christopher Nolan's brother, Jonathan Nolan, had no writing credit. My friend pointed this out to me, and I thought it was really interesting. That if you look at Christopher Nolan's best films, right? Think about what his best films are. You've got like Memento, The Prestige. I don't want to get them wrong. Like I think he didn't write on Inception, but he wrote on Interstellar. And I think The Dark Knight Rises, which I don't think is his best film, but all his best films are ones that are like written by Jonathan Nolan, right, or have a co-writing credit by Jonathan Nolan. And I think it's lacking. This film is lacking in its script. I think it has great practical effects. It has a great concept. It has great acting. It has great, like, all sorts, right? But it is just missing on a tight story. A tight story that makes sense and makes you think, right? I'm gonna get some flack for this. I think the problem with Inception is that its story is also lacking, similar to this. It breaks its own rules. Its concepts aren't that as tight as it should be, and it acts like it's a smarter movie than it is because it's actually kind of dumb, right? Like it makes a lot of mistakes and acts like it's what it's meant to be doing. And I think this movie does the same thing, and I think it sucks. It does bother me. Yeah. Obviously, the film is too loud. We all know this. It's a cliche. Turn that shit down. Fucking Nolan, next time, please. And in my review before, in my non-spoiler review, I talked about how it seemed that he had ripped off the soundtrack to Annihilation. And I can, on a second watch, I could hear the similarities, but I didn't think it was so blatantly ripped off this time. I think I was kind of blowing my load a bit. I was trying to find something that was that wasn't there. And it was annoying. Like I shouldn't have jumped the gun on that. I should have watched it again before making such claims. But yeah, that's just how it goes. So I'm keeping it at 4 stars. I did really enjoy it. Like it's still really fun. Like it's like, look at the movies that are released nowadays that are blockbusters, right? Nolan consistently makes good blockbusters. They're not the best movies, Like compare his films to like The Lighthouse. Compare his films to what other great movies came out last year? The Irishman. Compare it to Parasite. They're not... His films aren't to that level. Well, I think Memento and The Prestige are. But I think this film isn't, right? And I don't think, Dunkirk was. Or anything like that. But he consistently makes fun and intelligent blockbuster films. And that is something that I can commend him for. He's like I said in my last review, he's the new Steven Spielberg. Like, Steven Spielberg made Indiana Jones and others. I'm blanking now. Schindler's List. Well, that's probably one of his really good ones, right? But you know what I mean, like Jaws and E.T. They're not amazing films, but they're films that people love, and they're much better than the fucking flack that fucking gets shit out every year, right? It's better than the Fast and Furious movies. They're better than the Marvel movies. They're better than the fucking DC movies. They're better than all the other superhero junk. They're better than the Mission Impossible movies. All the other big blockbuster things that everyone seems to love. These are the better ones. They're better than the Michael Bay shit. They're better than Transformers. And you have to thank Nolan for doing this. I would like him to go back and make more, not indie films. He never really made indie films, right? Like Memento, I guess, was independent. But I think he makes indie feel films with a big budget, right? He creates intelligent stories and but with really over the top stunts and set pieces and things that are really enjoyable to watch. And again, I keep saying it, but you have to commend him. You have to thank Nolan for doing this. And he's gonna keep it up. I don't think Nolan's just gonna become a hack. He's got a very good track record of making consistently good movies, right? So I think he's gonna keep making great movies. I hope he doesn't make a Tenet too. Fuck. They left a bit up to interpretation later, saying look, there's future things going on, other things that need to be set up set up later for this movie to exist, right? But I don't think they need to show it, right? The ending kind of reminds me of the ending of Interstellar. So the end of Interstellar, the main character is affecting the past with their time travel type equivalent in that movie. It's a gravity type thing, and his computer is asks him, how who set this thing up? Obviously you're doing this thing, but who did this thing to make it work? And he goes, it's probably other humans in the future doing this type of thing, helping me out, And it's why don't you just do that? Why don't you set everything up? Why does it have to be, whatever, someone else will deal with it later? I feel It doesn't tie things up in a nice bow that I think it should. And in this movie, I feel like there are a few things that I don't think is all tied up, and I think it's kind of annoying. I think it would be nice to have the movie end with the protagonist hiring Robert Pattinson's character, because we find out at the end that he was the one that actually like started the whole Tenet operation in the future, and would hire all the people that they currently work with. And I think maybe it would have been fun to have the ending finish like that. I think there are a few other things that didn't quite get wrapped up in a bow. I don't think it necessarily has to. I think it just would have been nice. I don't know. You know, what do you think? Like, did you like this movie? I see a lot of bad reviews for this. I think people are just trying to be haters. I think there's a lot of there are flaws in this film. I think there are flaws in this film. I think that Nolan could do better in the future. I think with better writing, fucking less noisy score, things like this, right? That could be fixed up. But I've seen people saying this is the worst movie of the year and all that shit. Come on. Nolan deserves a lot of credit for this film. It's a technical masterpiece. I definitely, I'm hoping he wins some Oscars for this. Like, it's probably likely, because who knows, like, what's been delayed in the movie world to be able to actually hit the Oscars. And yeah, so let me know if you liked this movie, if you didn't like this movie. Shit on me for me not liking Inception. I can talk about that. I'll talk about that in my future Christopher Nolan video, because I'm working on a series where I talk about Christopher Nolan's filmography, because I talk about multiple directors' filmographies that I've worked on before, if you wanted to go check those out. But yeah, I'm not the biggest fan of Inception, and it's annoying. I actually rewatched it the other day after I watched Tenet, just to remember why I don't like it, and I don't. It's alright. I gave it like 3 stars, which isn't that great. Tenet's better. Yeah, so crucify me for that position. Yeah, cheers, guys.